Good morning, my listeners. Welcome you all to my newly established channels, and I'm going to make the very first series. It's about small talks for school. Because my first boy would be studying in grade 6, so I'm making some of the small talks now for my boys to deal with more of the schools debates related to questions about schools more likely, and some of the social issue also. Right now I'm sitting on my 3rd floor, and let me show you the views of my room. You can see it's right here, pretty much at the countryside. It's a bit outside of Hanoi, further out that way. As you can see, that's behind the coconut tree. That's big building. It's a secondary school, so my home is not very far from it. Right, and right here you can see, further down out that way, down there, that's behind the banana plants. That's will be a new road right there. So I got quite a nice view when I'm sitting right here from my rooftop. Right, let's go to this small talk and small topic today. So today I'm going to deal with small questions related to uniforms for school, whether it's a good idea to put on uniform or it's not necessary at all to put on uniform at school. Right, so in this video I'm going to look at both sides, the benefits and the disadvantages of wearing uniform or buying uniforms for back to schools. Right, so I'm going to write it here. Uniform, whether it's good or it's not, for example. So in order to give you a kind of rounded views about good and not good, I'm going to make a list right over here. So first one, it is good. It means that you do agree that schools should make all of its pupils or students to wear uniforms when attending school. So making a list of good points will give you the very strong stance to support your argument. So uniforms is a good choice. In what way? So first I'm going to show you some bit, or it's up to your own thought you can think of. Right, so the very first point is that probably there'd be no sign of wealth. No sign of wealth. That'd be good, isn't it? Because school is the place for studies, for making friends, not a place to show off. So no signs of wealth here is that when every pupils or students would have to put on uniforms, you can see my idea, right? There would be no fashion brands shown in the school playground or classroom, which would be so perfect. Say pupils from better off families would put on the same clothes as those coming from a little bit poorer background. So it's more about equality and no showing off that my family is richer and say wealthier, and your family is not really that fancy, for example. So no signs of wealth would be the perfect place, and the core of schooling is more for studies and of course more for making friends and get socialized, rather than to set up a very clear line, something like that, about the social class. Which of social structure or stratas do you come from? That's irrelevant to schooling. Okay, so that would be the first point, and the second point, it's about time and money, saving. Would that be wonderful, isn't it? So now, instead of buying clothes, well, few times during the school years, now parents may have to spend money a single times, to buy uniforms from schools. So it may save quite a lot of money, right? Instead of spending, well, quite a lot after, let's say, one week, well, 2 weeks or a month, to buy new clothes for the kids. Because if everybody would be putting on different fashion brands, well, there would be some kind of teasing between them. And of course, that would put more kind of financial burdens on their parents when they want to buy new clothes, so that they would not be teased by other pupils who put on fancier clothes or something like that. And that's about money saving. And what about time saving? So if in your wardrobes there would be dozens of different choices for clothing for a school day, and you may say, well, I'm going to put on pink color, I'm going to put on blue, what about white, what about the shirt with so many stripes? Would that be more charming or something like that? So instead of spending time picking up the colors and the fashion that you are going to put on, for the school days, now uniform is perfect. You have, you don't have to spend a lot of time for your, kind of fashions choice. So times and money saving would be the second point, which would be so perfect, right? What about the other ones? There would be more confidence, I may think. More confidence. And, let's say discipline. Yes, more confidence and disciplines. How can you support this idea? The confidence here that it comes from the signs of wealth. So since there'd be no teasing between schools, students or pupils or among classmates, and there would be more confidence for pupils who come from a little bit unlucky background, for example, or in other words, their family conditions may be not as great as that of the others pupils. So confidence. And of course, wearing the school badge, wearing school badge would be more likely an honor, to pupils and students. And what about disciplines? Disciplines here that when you put on the uniforms, you know of your responsibilities, your obligations. In other words, it's your duty. So with the uniforms there, you are more disciplined, to do and finish all of the homework, to finish all of your tasks and assignments, and to behave yourself, right? Like that. So it's more about confidence and discipline. And probably there'd be another one. It may be less bullying. Less bullying. What about less bullying? It's coming back to the very first ideas about the gap between the rich and the poor. And say, if that kind of things would be clearly shown, or even arise among pupils or students, that may lead to a lot more teasing between schools, pupils and students, even among friends and classmates. So with the uniforms then, it may bring in a lot less bullying among classmates. For example, some pupils may point to the others that look at the fashions that the girls over there would be wearing. It's so outdated. It's the very, let me say, the mutual color. There's no fashions in her clothing, for example. Such kind of sayings would be, a bit about bullying at school. Yeah. So, well, I have listed here 1, 2, 3, 4 points to support, the ideas of putting on uniforms on the school days. Yeah. And now I'm going to give you another different ideas, well, argument really, who disagreed with school uniforms. So let's say no uniform. No uniform. Yeah. Why no uniform? Well, there might be some different ideas right here. It'll be a lot less colorful, less color, let's say. Less color at school, and that may lead to a lot less creativity. Right. Uniforms is more likely of single colors or the mixture of probably up to 2 colors. So the whole school playground and the classroom would be of the same and single color like that. How plain it is. So of course that is a lot less color. When pupils are allowed to put on their own clothes, some would be wearing pink, some would be wearing white. What about yellow, blue and other colors? So the school playgrounds at the recess time would be perfect. That's like a great rainbow. So it would be a lot, better. And what about less creativity? Yeah. When the colors do affect the way we think. For example, now at the rush hours on the road, every car would be black, and then for people who join the traffic, we think, oh, that's so upset, everything is so dull. Yeah, something like that. So the schools, would be quite similar. It's so dull to see the same color every day. Yeah, that's our emotion and feeling, right? And the second point is that, back to school shopping. What about that? It's not that books. It's a lot more shopping. And it's a lot more of payment. Yep. So we'd say lots of expense for back to school shopping. Right. Now, for back to school shopping, we pay a lot for our children books. We pay a lot for what we call now the construction fee. Yes, of course, for the school. And now we would have to pay a lot more for uniform also. Well, the point here is that we have to spend money, of course, to buy clothes for our kids. But if it's some kind of every month, some kind of every 2 months, we shopped for our children clothes once, that we, something like a lot better, because now our expense would be spread along with the school years, instead that we have to pay them all at once before the school year. So it is something like that. Well, the point is that we have to spend anyway, but here it's we spend every 2 months, or we spend once for the whole school year, right? So a lot of expenses actually for back to school shopping. So quite a lot of family may not afford that, right? And the last point is, say there'd be a lot less sense of fashion. Yeah, a lot less sense of fashion here. Fashion is a very big and lucrative business, right? We see a lot of catwalks and a lot of models putting on the very expensive clothing brands. Yeah, so it's when pupils or students, they have no choice really to pick up the brands, the color that they like. They have to wear uniforms day after days throughout the school year, right? So there would be no development really in the mind of pupils or school boys and girls about the fashion that they would like to wear, something like that, right? So the sense about fashions would be, not really much in progress, for school boys and girls, right? So for the rounded argument about uniforms for schools, whether it's good or not good, and let's make a list of 7 points right here, and you can think of something different. You can think of something more interesting rather than I do, right? So for the good point about uniform at school, it's because it shows no signs of wealth, so there'd be no gap at all between the rich and the poor, because they all in a way put on the same clothes for school. And about times and money saving, it's quite clearly about that, and it's more confidence and disciplines for pupils and students. Because putting on the uniforms, they know for sure what their duties and obligations would be. Yeah, and a bit less bullying among kids. Teasing sometimes would be a kind of bullying, and speaking or using some kind of bad languages between classmates would be not a very nice sign. Yeah, so something about the good point, very good point of using wearing uniform. And what about the ideas that disagree with uniform at school? It's maybe a lot less color. Everybody would be so fancy on seeing what? Rainbows. Yeah, rainbow is lovely. Clothing of different colors in classmate and on school playgrounds would be very much similar to rainbows. So it may make people feel more positive or energetic or something like that. And what about the the back to school shopping with a lot of expenses? Yeah, like that. And less sense of fashions. So pupils may not have a chance to develop the kind of fashions that they pursue. Yeah. So that would be something about the very first topic I shared to you about uniform at school, whether it's a good point or not a good point. Yeah. Well, for other small talks, yeah, I'd may carry out a kind of similar things like this. It's I hope a bit easier for you to see, right? And goodbye. This is the end of my third series. Yep. I hope that you like it, and you can leave some comments and probably contribute more ideas, so that would help to enrich our bit of argument. Yeah, thank you very much, and hope that you enjoyed the day. Goodbye.